Okay, shalom everyone. Welcome, ברוכים הבאים לכולם to our 8th Tachles class. Alicia, let's just do a quick tech check. Can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So hello everyone again. You probably saw Ariana's message on the chat, but if you haven't, or if you need other clarifications about it, I will just let you know that we decided to extend this program for 4 more meetings, simply because we heard that a lot of you wanted it. But I will just, before I will explain you about the schedule, I will just give you a behind the scenes kind of update. As I mentioned in the past, I'm a shlicha, I'm an emissary working for the World Zionist Organization. I live temporarily in New York City. And I came to United States about almost 2 years ago. In order to work here with other Jewish and Zionist organizations such as the AZM and the CZF. So we end this program simply because my contract ends at the end of October, and because that September is the Chagim, the holidays, and October will be my last month here. We are finishing all of our running ongoing programs during this, few weeks. So this is the reason why we end this. And, because of and if people are asking, well, what about the person that will replace me, et cetera, et cetera. So there is uncertainty in the World Zionist Organization due to the virus. So nobody knows what will happen in the next few months. And this is why, if some of you were wondering why can't this program continue without me, this is the reason. We still don't know what will be after October regarding the World Zionist Organization, the organization that I'm working for and that I'm representing. So this is why there is uncertainty. But because we heard that a lot of you wanted to continue this program, we decided to continue it for 4 more meetings. So I'm going to read from my phone to make sure that I won't have any mistakes. But in any case, you will receive an email after today's session with the exact dates and updates. So next week, no classes, no class on Tuesday and no study session on Wednesday. Next week is a week off for all of us. If those of you need to catch up or need to do some homework that you didn't have time to do, next week is for you. By the way, tomorrow's study session still remains the same. So we will have the study session tomorrow. Next week, no classes. Starting, let me make sure I have that. Starting August 25th, the classes on Tuesday will shift in 1 hour. So instead of doing it in 12 p.m. Eastern time, we will do it 1 p.m. EDT, Eastern time. So we're shifting in 1 hour, but the study sessions on Wednesday remains the same. Now, we will do that for 4 weeks. So we will end on September 15 with the classes. And then on September 16 will be our last study session together, the Wednesday's study session. You won't, as of now, we are still trying to figure it out with Zoom. As of now, there won't be any new links. You don't need to register again. We will do it, we will put all of your emails automatically for the new sessions with the new time. But if there will be any change, if we won't be able to do that, we will, of course, keep you updated. We have all of you, if you are here, we have your emails on our lists. So if there will be any change with what I'm saying now regarding the links, we will give you an update. Alicia, before we will begin, just let me know if there are any questions that I need to know about, or Jeff or Ariana.
It sounds like everyone is super excited that we are continuing. We have people asking, can we go through the Hagim? Can you do it from Israel? But we're very excited that you will continue, and we'll have the 4 additional classes, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Yes, תודה רבה לכולם. Yeah, we received a lot of great comments and warm comments also in the email. So we really want to thank you. We don't take it for granted. Okay, בואו נתחיל. Let's begin. So מה נעשה היום? What are we going to do today? We will begin with a quick review of the vocabulary, אוצר מילים, that we learned last week. I believe last week was our second class that we started learning the new vocabulary of the Getting Around Town. We will do a quick exercise in the breakout room, and then we'll do, if we will have time, we will do another exercise just like we did last week. We will do it again today, again, if we will have time. If you remember, last week we did a quick exercise about that was supposed to improve your listening comprehension skills, and I received a lot of good comments about it, that it was very helpful. So if we will have time, we will do it again today. Okay, so let's begin with opening the booklet, the Getting Around Town booklet. And of course, if you have the other booklets with you, it's always good to have them around, because we're using all of the vocabulary that we learned, not necessarily you know, the last booklet. So last week we learned the vocabulary on page number 1, עמוד מספר 1, and I also talked a lot about the prepositions, the first three, I'll call them letters because they're actually prefix, but this is just one word, just one letter. So the letter B, which indicates, which means in or in the or inside and even on. This is a preposition, as well as mi, me, and meha, and le and la. So if you forgot what we talked about last week about these prepositions, you can open the class recap from last week. I explained that all of the prepositions in Hebrew can be conjugated. We can add them to the pronouns that we learned, ani, ata, anachnu, hem, hen, etc., and we get a different meaning. Now, these prepositions can also be attached to a noun, and then they will get a different definition. And I also provided you with a link to the website that I love so much, Pe'alim, that literally shows you, provides you a list with all of the prepositions that exists in Hebrew. And once you click them, you get the full table of conjugations. Please don't ask from us to get this link again. Just simply go back to the last class recap and find that link over there. We also discussed, I'm now looking at the second part of Amud Mispar Echad. We also discussed about smichut, construct states in Hebrew. So construct state in Hebrew is when we take two nouns and we put them together and we receive a new expression. Now, we don't only receive new expression, there are also new rules that we must take in consideration once we use that construct state. So, for example, let's take this construct state, Beit Sefer, school. Beit Sefer is a construct state, smichut, that is with two words, Beit and Sefer, okay? Beit is house or home. Sefer is a book. But when we put them together, bet sefer, we receive the new expression, which means school. Now, some of you asked, and I believe it was someone asked me on the email, so why do, so bet sefer is bite and sefer. So why does bite sounds different than bait? Okay, so why here we say bite when we want to say house or home, but when we want to say school, we say bait. So the bite changes to bait. What does it mean? Why does it happen? So this is another example of the changes that happen to a noun when it's a part of a construct state. I don't really know the reason, but if you want to say house or home, if you simply want to use the word bite, standing as its own, you say bite. But when bite is a part of a construct state, just like beit knesset, it changes to beit, okay? Beit cafe, beit sefer, beit knesset. Again, I don't know the reason, but it's just like when we learned how to use the number shnaim, but when we want to use, let's say, 2 books, we must say shnei sfarim. So all of a sudden, the word changes. Shnei sfarim is another example of a construct state. So there are a lot of different phenomenons, let's call them, whenever we use construct state. And again, on last class recap, I gave you a link to a website that explains the whole, construct state situation in Hebrew. Yes, tachanat autobus and tachanat rekevet are also construct state. I don't want to explain all of the rules of construct state now because it will take us too much time. But whenever I will see another thing that is worth mentioning about construct state, I will, of course, mention that. Okay. Now I want us to open Amud Mispar 2, page number 2. And we are going to go through some adjectives and adverbs that will help us to enrich our basic sentences in Hebrew. Some of them are pretty basic. Maybe some of you already heard them. So let's go through them now. But before I will begin, all of the adjectives in Hebrew, if we'll go back to the first rule that we learned on our first class, all of the adjectives comes in 4 variations, singular masculine, singular feminine, plural masculine, and plural feminine, all of the adjectives. And whenever we want to use a certain noun and we want to describe it, we must take in consideration the noun's gender and number before we add the adjective. And one last thing, the adjectives come after the noun, okay? And not before, in it, just like in English. So let's begin with the first one. Big or large will be in Hebrew, gadol, okay? So please repeat after me, gadol. And if we want to say the feminine version for that, we will say gdola. Now, if I want to say this is a big house, I will say ze bait gadol, okay? Ze bait gadol, because bait is masculine noun. But if I want to say this is a big neighborhood, neighborhood in Hebrew is shchuna. Shchuna is a feminine word. So I will say zo shchuna gdola. Okay, so not only I used gdola, I also changed the ze to zo. Okay, so ze bait gadol versus zo shchuna gdola. And then we have the plural, gdolim. Okay, gdolim versus gdolot. Okay, let's continue. The opposite of gadol will be katan. Okay, katan and ktana. So katan and ktana. Ze bait katan versus zo shchuna ktana. Okay, and the plural will be ktanim. Okay, so katan changes to ktanim and ktana changes to ktanot. Okay, now, tall will be gavoha. Okay, let's say it together, gavoha. And the feminine version for that will be gvoha. Okay, let's say it together, gvoha. So if I want to say this is a tall kid, I will say ze yeled gavoha. Okay, ze yeled gavoha. Or if I want to say my kid is tall, I will say hayeled sheli gavoha. And if I want to say my daughter is tall, I will say hayelda sheli gavoha. Okay, in Hebrew, we do, in Israel, we say chamsa, 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 tfu, 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 and then we knock on wood whenever we give compliments to our loved ones. And it's against evil eye, ayn ra'ah. Yes, okay, so let's continue. This was my Moroccan great grandfather now speaking from the grave, reminding me to do the knock on wood. Okay, let's continue. So the plural, again, gvohim. So gavoha changes to gvohim, and gvoha will changes to gvohot. So if I want to say my kids or our, let's do our kids. If I want to say our kids are tall, I will say hayeladim shelanu. Okay, hayeladim shelanu gvohim. Okay, and if I want to say my daughters are tall, I will say hayeladot sheli gvohot. Let's continue. The opposite of gavoha will be namuch. Okay, namuch. And the feminine version for namuch is nemucha. Okay, nemucha. And the plural will be nemuchim and nemuchot. Okay, let's continue. Pretty or even beautiful will be yafe. Okay, yafe. And the feminine version for yafe is yafa. Now, if I want to say my daughter is pretty or beautiful, I will say hayalda sheli yafa. Okay, Yafa is also a first name in Israel, Yafa. And if you've heard of the city that is near Tel Aviv, Jaffa, so in Hebrew we say Yafo. In Arabic, I believe it is also Jaffa. I'm not sure, but it means beautiful or pretty. And Jaffa, I'm not sure about now, but hundreds of years ago, it was probably a very beautiful city. That's why they called it Jaffa. Okay, and the plural for Yafe will be Yafim. Okay, so if I want to say my kids are beautiful, I will say Hayeladim sheli Yafim. Or my daughters are beautiful, Hayeladot sheli Yafot. Okay, let's continue. Nice or pleasant will be nechmad. Okay, let's say it together, nechmad. And the feminine version for that will be nechmada. Okay, if I want to say I'm in a nice cafe, I can say ani beit cafe nechmad. Okay, I'm sitting on a nice cafe, or I'm currently in a nice cafe. We can say ani bebeit cafe nechmad. I added the preposition be. Or if you want to say this is a nice cafe, you can say ze beit cafe nechmad. Okay, now beit cafe is a masculine noun. That's why we say nechmad and not nechmada. But if you want to say this is a pleasant neighborhood, neighborhood is feminine noun, so you can say zo shchuna nechmada. Now, let's say that we want to add not only pleasant, but beautiful. So we will say zo shchuna nechmada veyafa. okay? And if we want to say about our Hebrew teacher that she is tall, pretty, and nice, I will say, המורה שלי גבוהה, יפה, ונחמדה. Okay, so this is a reminder whenever we are listing something and we have, let's say, more than two adjectives or two items, we add the preposition ve and before the last noun, okay? So, המורה שלי גבוהה, יפה, ונחמדה, okay? Let's continue. So many or a lot, this is an adverb, I believe, will be הרבה, okay? הרבה. So if I want to say there are a lot of tall buildings in my neighborhood, and I want to use the word many or a lot, I will say יש, okay? There are. יש הרבה בניינים גבוהים בשכונה שלי. Okay, so בניינים, it's from page number 1. Okay, again, יש הרבה בניינים גבוהים בשכונה שלי. Now, הרבה stays הרבה. I said הרבה with an American accent. הרבה stays הרבה. Doesn't matter what we are describing, okay? Feminine nouns, masculine nouns, doesn't matter. There's only one version for הרבה. And the opposite of הרבה, few or a little, will be קצת, okay? קצת. I believe we learned קצת on our first class when we learned how to answer the question, אתה מדבר עברית or את מדברת עברית. So I taught you כן, לא, and קצת. And another option for קצת would be מעט. Now, the differences between קצת and מעט is simply that מעט is a bit official and old-fashioned word. Again, when we are speaking Hebrew in day-to-day conversations, we won't use קצת. But if I'm writing now an essay for my college studies, I would prefer to use the word מעט and not קצת, simply because it's let's say a nicer word. But קצת is a word that you can definitely use. But if you are in official conversations and you want to make an impression, you can use the word מעט. This is the only difference between קצת and מעט. The last word I believe we also learned is אבל. Okay, אבל, but. Okay, יש שאלות? Jeff, Alicia, Ariana?
We have, yes, we have some questions. Can you clarify gavoha and gavoha, just, the difference in the sounds and where the consonant might be?
Again, yes, sure. So gavoha is the masculine version for tall, and gvoha, okay, is the feminine. So we have gavoha versus gvoha. Okay, gavoha, gvoha. In Hebrew, you can see that the feminine version for tall has double hey at the end. So that's why it sounds different. Gavoha versus gvoha. Okay, עוד שאלות?
Ken, so when you're saying the word cafe, can you just use the word cafe itself, or do you have to say beit cafe?
Yes, you can say יש קפה נחמד בשכונה שלי. Yeah, you can definitely say cafe instead of בית קפה. עוד שאלות? לא.
Nope, that's it.
Okay, מצוין. Now, I want you to open page number 5, עמוד מספר 5. I believe we already did the first part. Not I believe, I'm sure. We did, I'm questioning myself. It's something I'm working with my psychologist. No, I'm just kidding. So we already did the first part of page number 5. Now I want you to look at the last 3 sentences, I believe. So these sentences, we're going to use them on our next exercise in the breakout rooms. So let's do the first question here. So what is, or what if you want to ask someone what's in their neighborhood. So there are a few variations to ask depending who you are asking, who is the person, what is their gender, their number, etc. But let's do the general one, okay? If we're asking something in general. So the question, what's in your street, will be, מה יש ברחוב שלכם? Okay, מה יש ברחוב שלכם? And these are all words that we already learned, okay? So מה is what? יש, there is, okay? So מה יש ברחוב, in your street or on your street. שלכם is the possessive adjective for you, plural masculine. Now, if you want to say what's in your neighborhood, you can say, מה יש בשכונה שלכם? So here I simply switched ברחוב to בשכונה. Now, if you want to answer that question and you want to say there is a big house in my neighborhood, you can say, בשכונה שלי, in my neighborhood, יש, there is, בית גדול. Okay, so בשכונה שלי, יש בית גדול. And the opposite for that question, what there isn't on your street or in your neighborhood, will be, מה אין ברחוב שלכם, or מה אין בשכונה שלכם. So the differences between the first question and the second one is simply the word יש that is being switched with אין, okay? So מה יש ברחוב שלכם versus מה אין ברחוב שלכם. And מה יש בשכונה שלכם versus מה אין בשכונה שלכם. By the way, instead of שלכם, you can add and you can replace it with any other possessive adjective that we already learned. The possessive adjectives table is on the first booklet, the Getting Acquainted. So I can ask, מה יש ברחוב שלך? Okay, and שלך is you, singular feminine, okay? So here I changed who I'm asking, but the question remains the same. Another option for that question, I'm looking at the last sentence on the slideshow, מה יש ליד הבית שלכם? What is next to your house, okay? מה יש ליד הבית שלכם? And I can answer, ליד הבית שלנו, next to our house, ליד הבית שלנו, יש בנק. יש בנק, what can I say about banks? יש בנק נחמד, okay? There is a nice bank or a pleasant, the bankers are very patient. So, מה יש ליד הבית שלכם? ליד הבית שלנו, or ליד הבית שלי, יש בנק נחמד. Or the opposite of that question is, מה אין ליד הבית שלכם? And I can say, ליד הבית שלנו, or ליד הבית שלי, אין קניון גדול. Okay, there is no big mall next to my house. Okay, so these are the questions. Now, these are the answers that you could use. Okay, so these are just pattern of expressions that are answering the questions that we just say. The answers, these sentences are on page number 6, עמוד מספר 6. Okay, and I only, if you can see, I added arrows to, just because we have a lot of variations here, and if you are basic, I'm offering you to focus on 3 sentences, okay? בשכונה שלו יש, or ליד הבית שלו יש, and the last one, הבית שלו רחוק מ, okay, is far away from, and here I added another adverb. So, and the possessive adjectives can be changed, and the sentence, the meaning of the sentence remains the same. Now this, I know it was a bit confusing, but this is what I want you to do now. I want you to write, if you don't have something to write on, just go and grab something very quickly. I want you to write 3 sentences of something that there is or there isn't near your house, in your neighborhood, on your street. Of course, this is a big reminder. Try to stick with the vocabulary that we already learned, okay? So if you need to lie a bit in order to make a sentence, it is okay. If there is no bank near your house, but this is the only word that you remember and you want to use it, just use it, that there is a big bank near your house. We're doing it just for the exercise now. The most important thing is that you stick to the vocabulary that we already know, because in a few more moments, when we will split into the breakout rooms, you will have to say it, and the person that is next, that is after you, will have to translate it. So maybe some of the participants don't know the vocabulary that you may use. So all of the vocabulary should be taken from the Getting Around Town booklet. And I will go back to to this sentence. Okay, so these are the patterns of the sentences that I want you to use. You can start בשכונה שלי יש, and then say something about what's in your neighborhood, or you can say בשכונה שלי אין, if there isn't something in your neighborhood, or you can say ליד הבית שלי יש, near my house there is, or you can say ליד הרחוב שלי, okay? I changed הבית to הרחוב. Or you can say הבית שלי רחוק מ, my house is far away from. If writing 3 sentences is too much, you can only do 1, okay? It's not necessarily to do 3. You can do 1 to 3 sentences. In a few more moments, we will split you into groups. So Alicia, let's plan to do 4 participants on each group. And now this is a note for everyone. You will have 4 participants on each group, and I want the first participant. The order is, of course, the order is by the ABC of your first names. So the first participant to speak will say 1 sentence about his street, neighborhood, house, etc. And then the next participant will have to translate that. But if you want, and this is an extra bonus point for the person who needs to translate the first participant's sentence, if you want to translate it and not only translate, but say, for example, if Jeff is saying, בשכונה שלי יש בית גדול, okay? There is a big house in my neighborhood. And it's my turn to translate what Jeff said. I can say, בשכונה שלו, okay? Or בשכונה של Jeff, יש בית גדול. Okay, so I didn't literally translate what he said, because if I did, I will say, בשכונה שלי יש בית גדול, in my neighborhood there is a big house. No, I will say on Jeff's neighborhood, there is a big house, and I can also say it in Hebrew, בשכונה שלו יש בית גדול. And then it's my turn to say my sentence in Hebrew, and the person that comes after me will translate it into English. And if they want to do it, they can also say it in Hebrew, but saying what there is in her neighborhood. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so we'll do 4 participants, and I will give you a lot of time because these are long sentences. So let's do, Alicia, 7 minutes, okay?
Really quickly, can you just tell us, how do you say many houses?
הרבה בתים, okay? So I changed the word bait to batim, but since we didn't learn how to say batim, let's try to stick with the vocabulary that we have, okay?
Okay, sorry, a few people asked, I apologize.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So batim, okay? Do we have any more questions? No? Okay, so 4 participants on each group, 7 minutes. Guys, it's a lot of time. If you finish one round, you can start a new one, but try not to schmooze too much, okay? I want this 7 minutes to be dedicated for you speaking in Hebrew. Try to stick with the vocabulary that we already, know. And if you are less than 4 participants, this is why you have the 3 sentences. So I believe it will fill up the time. Don't forget to unmute yourself. Alicia, whenever you are ready, בהצלחה לכולם. Good luck, everyone. So, shalom לכולם, thank you. I believe that the breakout room went well, most of the cases. I mean, in those that I was there, it sounded great. If you have any questions about some of the words, just let me know. Alicia, are you working on muting? Yeah, okay. I believe that those who stayed in the main room were unmuted, which is okay, but we will have to unmute you now. I'm sorry. Okay, so in Yesh She'elot, if you have any questions about some of the words that you use during the breakout rooms, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, I will just say that I heard some things that I wanted to talk about. So some of you started using the prepositions, which is great, but you must keep in mind if it may. So I will use, so one of the participants that I just heard a few seconds ago, I hope it is okay that I'm giving your example. She said in Hebrew, בבית שלי יש הרבה חנויות. Okay? בבית שלי יש הרבה חנויות. Now, what she wanted to say is there are a lot of stores near my house, but instead of using the word near, which means ליד, she used accidentally, of course, the preposition ba, which means in or on or inside. And what it sounded in Hebrew that there are a lot of stores in my house. Okay, and what she wanted to say is leyad instead of be. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind, to use the correct prepositions. And of course, the word chanut, the plural version of it is a bit exceptional. So it would make sense to say chanutot, right? To add OT to it. But it's not actually like that. I will write it now in the chat because I believe it's important to write to know that. So the plural version for store would be chanuyot. Okay, so you have it here in the chat now. So harbe chanuyot, a lot of stores. I'm trying to think of any other things that I've heard, but other than that, everything was great. Jeff, Alicia, yesh she'elot?
Kent, so a lot of people are asking how you say park in Hebrew because a lot of people in the suburbs happen to have parks near their houses.
Okay, so so if you're talking about one parking space, I will write it down now. It will be chanaya. Okay, sounds like chanut, okay? And there's actually an interesting story behind that verb. It is, of course, a verb that we can also find in the Arabic version language. Whenever we are staying, not necessarily temporarily somewhere, but whenever we are, there's an, I'll find the correct story behind that verb, behind that noun, root, and I will let you know. But khan, it's also a word in Arabic that means pretty much the same. So chanaya will be if you are parking.
I think it was more like a park.
Like the place, a park. Like
to
I want to go
play,
walk
like
in the
green.
park.
Okay, so that would be chanyon, which sounds like canyon. Okay, so the ending yon indicates about, a big place with a lot of things in it. So chanyon, I'm going to write it now. chanyon. The same ending, just like canyon. And it's interesting because canyon is the same root as kana, but, okay, liknot, to buy something. So canyon is the place where you buy a lot of things, and chanyon, the verb chana, is to park somewhere. Chanyon is the place where there are a lot of people that are parking their cars. Okay. יש עוד שאלות? כן.
יש לנו הרבה שאלות.
Okay, we have 10 minutes for
so
questions.
Does layad mean both near and next to?
Yes.
Okay. We have a question here asking if you can say atzel instead of layod.
Etzel instead of lihiyot. Okay,
instead of layad or. Okay,
so etzel is a different type of preposition. We use etzel whenever we are staying at someone's place, or I don't know the official definition for etzel, but let's say if I'm staying over, if I'm a kid now and I'm staying over at my friend's house for the night, I will use the preposition etzel. But what was the other word, Jeff?
Layad.
Layad is near something.
Okay, and the last question is, can you explain the difference between Gan and Chanyon?
It's two different words. So Gan is garden or kindergarten, and Chanyon is, or maybe Gan and Chanyon, are you sure? Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. And Chanyon, it's not a word that is in the vocabulary. It's a word that I just added because some of you asked. Chanyon is a parking area.
Okay, yep. Siyamti, I'm finished.
Okay. So, now I see someone wrote me privately. I think people are asking park like gina. Okay. So park in Hebrew is park. Is a big, large garden, okay, with that you can jog in it. Gina is a small garden that you would walk your dog to. And if you want to say parking, like to park somewhere, that would be chanyon. Okay, are we good, Jeff? Ken, beseder? Okay. Yep. So let's do last 10 minutes, the listening comprehension exercise that I want us to do. So again, grab something to write on. I'm going to say a sentence, and the first round I will say it in a normal pace where someone who will speak Hebrew to you will speak. And then the second round, I will say it a little bit slower this time. And the third round, I will say it very slowly, and you will have it written in Hebrew letters and transliteration. Okay, so of course, I'm using mainly the vocabulary of the getting around town, but I will also there will also be some words that are taken for the other, from the other two booklets. So the first one is, בשכונה שלי יש קניון גדול והרבה בניינים לבנים. Okay, try to write down words that you understood. Let's do the second one. בשכונה שלה, בשכונה, okay, let's do it again. I meant to say בשכונה שלה and not בשכונה שלי, okay? My bad. בשכונה שלה יש קניון גדול והרבה בניינים לבנים. Okay, last round. בשכונה שלה יש קניון גדול והרבה בניינים לבנים. Okay, who would like to translate? Raise your hand. Oh, do I see someone? Monique, do you want to translate?
In her neighborhood, there is a big mall and many white buildings.
יפה מאוד, מצוין. So, so Monique said in her neighborhood. Instead of that, we can say her neighborhood has big, gadol can also be large. So her neighborhood has a large or big mall and a lot of white buildings. Okay, תודה רבה. Let's continue to the next one, the second sentence. הרופא שלי גר רחוק מהבנק, אבל קרוב לבית קפה נחמד. Okay, second round. הרופא שלי גר רחוק מהבנק, אבל קרוב לבית קפה נחמד. Third and last round with the transliteration. הרופא שלי גר רחוק מהבנק, אבל קרוב לבית קפה נחמד. Okay, who would like to translate that? I see Joanne Levine.
Okay, my doctor lives far from the bank, but near a nice cafe.
יפה מאוד, מצוין, Joanne. So my doctor, of course, my male doctor, because הרופא and not הרופאה. My doctor lives far from the bank, but close to a nice cafe. תודה רבה, Joanne. Now I want to say something about it. So do you remember we learned the word et, right? And we said that we use et after a noun and before so you know what, never mind, let's keep et. Beit cafe here is not a specific beit cafe, okay? I'm talking about a random beit cafe. That's why I didn't use the word the, ha, okay? The preposition ha in Hebrew. And if I wanted to say that my doctor lives near the nice cafe, I would say, הרופא שלי גר קרוב לבית הקפה הנחמד. Okay, so this is a new rule that I'm teaching you. If we're talking about construct state in Hebrew, beit cafe is a construct state. Whenever I want to make that, whenever I want to make a construct state, whenever I want to add the prefix ha to it, I will add it to the second word, okay? Beit HaCafe, if I'm talking about the coffee shop. And if I was talking about, again, a specific nice cafe, I would say Beit HaCafe HaNechmad, and not Beit Cafe Nechmad. Now, if you didn't understand what I just said, it's okay, leave it aside. If you did understand, it's just, again, the difference between indefinite nouns and those that aren't, okay? When I'm talking about a specific item or about a random one. And if I'm talking about a specific one, I won't only add ha to the noun, I will also add ha to the adjective, ha-nechmad, okay? Let's continue to the last sentence and then we will finish up the class. Okay, last sentence. ליד הבית שלנו יש צומת ושני רמזורים. Okay, second round. Oh, I added the sentence, so I will do it anyway. ליד הבית שלנו יש צומת ושני רמזורים. Okay? And now I'm going to do it last time with the sentence in Hebrew in transliteration. ליד הבית שלנו יש צומת ושני רמזורים. Okay, who would like to translate? מי רוצה לתרגם? Okay, I see Renee. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, which Renee? I'll ask them to
Renee,
unmute.
yeah, that one.
Up there you go.
Near our house, there is an intersection with 2 traffic lights.
Okay, יפה מאוד, תודה רבה. I will just add, Renee, that instead of with, I will say and 2 traffic lights, because with would be the word im. Okay, but im is also, it's, you know, it's valid, it's okay. So near our house, there is an intersection and 2 traffic lights, or there are an intersection and 2 traffic lights. I'm not sure about that. And now I want to say another thing. So if you could read Hebrew, you could see that the word shnei, when I wanted to say and 2 traffic lights, I wrote here u shnei ramzorim instead of ve shnei ramzorim. And in the transliteration, I wrote ve. Now, this is something that I discussed about a few classes ago when I told you about prefix in Hebrew in general. Sometimes the vowels or the way we pronounce the word, if we add a prefix to it, the first vowel must change, or even the prefix, the vowel of the prefix needs to change, again, depending on the nikud, on the vowel of the word. So there are a lot of rules about that. It's very irrelevant in today's, you know, modern Hebrew if you're not giving a speech or something like that, if you're, you know, talking in a not, you know, in a day-to-day conversation. So, but in Hebrew, when I wanted to use in the keyboard, I wanted to use the nikud, the vowels, it doesn't let me to write veshnei ramzorim. It will only let me write ushnei ramzorim. This is why in the transliteration, I preferred to keep, you know, the variation that we already learned, the veshnei ramzorim. Okay, before we will end the class, yesh she'elot. Let's do it very quickly.
Just one quick question. So
Yes.
for le beit cafe, should there be a dot in the bet for beit?
So great question. It's exactly what I said now. Whenever we add a prefix, in this case le, we added le to beit cafe. Whenever we add a prefix to a word, there is kind of like, I will call it a relationship between the prefix and the first vowel of the first word. There's something is happening there. So beit changes to veit because that le is, the vowel of le is with shva, okay, with the 2 dots. So we must skip the dagesh in the beit if it made sense for you. If it didn't, if you didn't understand what I said, it's just another example of a prefix that we add to a noun, and some things are changes in it. Okay. Od she'elot, Jeff?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. I see that people are raising their hands, but unfortunately, you know what, Lenny and Bobby, do you want to ask your question very quickly? I unmuted you.
Thank you. On liyad, isn't it next to instead of near? Isn't karov near?
So liyad and karov means the same in modern spoken Hebrew. It means that something is near or next to something else. Yes.
Thank you.
Bevakasha. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I am reminding you that next week, we have a week off, so no class on Tuesday, no class on Wednesday. Yes, and you will receive an email with the new schedule. We're beginning again, we're meeting each other on August 25th. The same link, so no need to register again. If there will be anything new, we will of course send you an email. Okay, Alicia, did I miss anything? Just making sure. לא.
I think we are good, and we'll resume the study sessions on Wednesdays, but the time will change from 12 to 1. So August 25th at 1 p.m. But again, I'll email you everything. And,
Yes. And we are meeting again tomorrow for the study session as usual to review last week homework. אוקיי. טוב, תודה רבה לכולם, להתראות.